Lakaya Chakshrunnimitamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We'll continue reading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, book, chapter 13. Of course, he had many times traveled the road from Delhi to Vrindavan, but it did not have many advertisements. A traveler would see mostly the land, roadside streams, temples, homes, farmers in their fields. Most people went on foot or traveled by ox cart or bicycle. And in Vrindavana, even the ordinary passers-by greeted each other by calling the names of God, Jai Radhe, Hare Krishna. Now there were factories outside Delhi, but nothing like this. The cumulative effect did not pack nearly the materialistic punch of these fields of oil tanks, mammoth factories, and billboards alongside the crowded superhighway. Meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, the very scenes Srila Prabhupada had come to preach against, were proudly glamorized on mile after mile of billboards. The signs promoted liquor and cigarettes. Roadside restaurants offered slaughtered cows in the form of sticks and hamburgers, and no matter what the product, it was usually advertised by lusty looking women. But Prabhupada had come to teach the opposite, that happiness is not found in the passion for sense gratification, and that only when one becomes detached from the mode of passion, which leads to sinful acts, can one become eligible for the eternal happiness of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada felt compassion. The compassion of a Krishna conscious saint had been explained in an age long ago by Prahlad Maharaj. I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. The scenery gradually changed to the Pennsylvania countryside, and the bus sped through long tunnels in the mountains. Night came, and it was late. After 11, when the bus entered the heavily industrialized Pittsburgh area on the shore of the Allegheny River, Srila Prabhupada could not see the steel mills clearly, but he could see their lights and their industrial fires and smoking stacks. Millions of lights shone throughout the city's prevailing dinginess. When the bus finally pulled into the terminal, it was past midnight. Gopal Agrawal was waiting with the family Volkswagen bus to drive Prabhupada to Butler. About 1 hour north, he greeted Prabhupada with folded palms and welcomed Swamiji, bowing from the west several times. This was not any of Gopal's doing. His father, a Mathura businessman with a fondness for sadhus and religious causes, had requested him to host the Swamiji. This was not the first time his father had arranged for a sadhu acquaintance to come to America. Several times he had sent sponsorship papers for Gopal to sign, and Gopal had obediently done so, but nothing had ever come of them. So when the sponsorship letter for A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami had come, Gopal had promptly signed and returned it, thinking that this would be the last they would hear of it. But then, just a week ago, a letter had come Sally Agarwal had opened it and then, in alarm, called to her husband, Honey, sit down, listen to this, the Swami is coming. Srila Prabhupada had enclosed his picture so that they would not mistake him. The Agarwals had looked curiously at the photograph. There will be no mistake there, Gopal had said. The unsuspecting Agarwals were simple American people. According to Sally Agarwal, who had met her Indian husband while he was working as an engineer in Pennsylvania. What would they do with an Indian Swami in their house? Prabhupada was a shock for them, but there was no question of not accepting him. They were bound by the request of Gopal's father. Dutifully, Gopal had purchased Srila Prabhupada's ticket from New York to Pittsburgh and had arranged for the agent from Traveler's Aid to meet him. And dutifully, he had driven tonight to meet him. So it was with a mixture of embarrassment, disbelief, and wonder that Gopal Agarwal helped his guest into the VW and drove back home to Butler. September 20. Butler, Pennsylvania, home of the Jeep. Read a granite plaque in the city park. Butler, famous as the town where the U.S. Army Jeep was invented in 1940, was an industrial city of 20,000, settled amid the hills of an area rich in oil, coal, gas, and limestone. Its industry consisted mainly of factories for plate glass, railroad cars, refrigerators, oil equipment, and rubber goods. 90% of the local laborers were Native Americans. The nominal regional had always been Christian, mostly Protestant with some Catholic, and in later years, a few synagogues had appeared. But there was no Hindu community at that time. Gopal Agrawal was the first Indian to move to Butler. As the VW bus pulled into town, the pre dawn air was warm and humid. The morning edition of the Butler Eagle would soon be going to the newsstands. Red Chinese fire on India. Prime Minister Sastri declares Chinese Communist out to dominate world. United Nations Council demands Pakistan and India cease fire in 48 hours. Srila Prabhupada arrived at the Agarwal's home, Sterling Apartments, at 4 a.m., and Gopal invited him to sleep on the couch. Their place, a townhouse apartment, consisted of a small living room, a dining room, a kitchenette, two upstairs bedrooms, and a bath. Here they lived with their two young children. The Agarwals had lived in Butler for a few years now and felt themselves established in a good social circle. Since their apartment had so little space, they decided that it would be better if the Swami took a room at the YMCA and came to visit them during the day. Of course, living space was not the real difficulty. It was him. How would he fit into the butler atmosphere? He was their guest, so they would have to explain him to their friends and neighbors. So we'll stop here. We'll continue reading tomorrow. So few realizations we see how Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world to preach Mahaprabhu's message because it was his guru's instruction, his spiritual master's instruction to spread the message of Mahaprabhu in the Western side. But like what Srila Prabhupada was thinking, like the four regulative principles of ISKCON, and no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no alcohol, right? So all these Srila Prabhupada saw in America, all these things are like these four sinful acts were happening and still is happening. So Prabhupada was like kind of like surprised how he's going to spread or preach Mahaprabhu's message of Krishna consciousness here in the United States. He was kind of like confused, and we can see like there was no arrangement for him. He didn't know, like when he came out of the ship and he was thinking whether to go left or right. But it's all Krishna's mercy, how Krishna is doing all the arrangements. And now Srila Prabhupada is in Butler, Pennsylvania with the Agarwal's family. How we'll see the struggle there, how they it was not about the space, like small space in their apartment, but it was like Srila Prabhupada, how he will fit into their the way they are living, their culture, everything. And also Srila Prabhupada saw like how everything is advertised through lusty moments, and how these like happiness cannot be obtained through all this through mode of passion. But when we understand that who you are, who Krishna is, then only we can obtain the highest happiness. So yeah, we'll see how in the future readings we'll see how different struggles Srila Prabhupada has to go through to just to spread his spiritual masters, to fulfill his spiritual master's desire and instruction.